I don't believe in savings because I believe savings is a waste of complete time.
I invested in one Ponzi scheme in my 20s. Everybody was doing it and they kept on mounting pressure on me. Everybody's doing it. You're the only one not doing it. And I didn't want to do it. I think I had $500 of then. I said, okay, let me even try this thing. This pressure has become too much. And lo and behold, it was when I invested, the whole thing crashed.
I have trouble answering that question because I'm not planning to retire. Because even the things I want to retire to do are things that would impact society. So there's no retirement for me in that sense of the word. But in the context with which you mean it, retirement for me simply means, how do I sustain my living in comfort such that I can make any financial decision without having to worry about working for it this much tomorrow?
What businesses can I look at, start investing, and move to a proportion that by the time I'm 50, I do not necessarily need to wake up in the morning and say I'm going anywhere? Business A, what are you giving to me? Business B, what are you giving to me? Business C, what are you giving to me? And I decide, okay, you know what? I've had enough of Lagos for today. Maybe I'm going to spend the next month in Portugal because the businesses I own can afford to take care of that lifestyle.
I put in funds in property and lands, those things, like I said, are generational, they can be passed on. Also trying to see if we could do some other foreign investments as well.
I've lately been investing some kind of property which has to do with instrumental payments. I'm working closely on ensuring that I invest for my future. I don't believe in savings because I believe savings is a waste of complete time. Why would I want to save my money for minute interests when I could put in an investment outlet or even use such to buy property somewhere?
There are many. I invested some money. I picked certain stock, and in a 2 months period, I think I have reaped about 25% of what I invested. Also putting monies here and there for fixed income investments.
And one of the biggest investment strategies that I have had was portfolio diversification. Because if the stock market crashes today, the real estate market may still be alive. If both of them crash today, there's some debt or equity somewhere that is holding you back. So as we speak right now, my kids have learned that they don't beg for money. They request for resources. I want them to see that money is a resource. And when they look at money as a resource, they see it as a tool to create wealth, rather than I want money because money seems to be the goal.
My dad started investing in his children early, even before when we were pretty young. It was later when we grew up further that my dad bought stocks for everybody. And that's something I started when I had my first child. I bought him shares in his name. And another thing is also about savings. I taught my children how to save very early because that one I learned it from my mom. So I remember when my boys were pretty young, I bought them this saving can. It's colo, but these ones, they had Superman characters all around it. So they found it interesting. And then any little thing they do, we save their grandmom comes, they put the money in there. It was actually meant to be for 6 months, but they did it for over a year. So there was a time that, funny enough, I needed cash in the house. So I then asked them, how much do you have there? I needed like 3K and they gave me 3K. One of them from that is savings box. So it was something they now imbibe and they've grown with it, you know, keeping money aside, not just everything they give you, just spend. So that's one part I learned from my mom, and then buying shares and investing in your children early. I learned that from my dad.
I have a 15-year-old daughter who, as we speak, has multiple investments that she's aware of and actively participating in. So she's practically growing her own investments by herself. The idea first was for her to learn that it's not about how much, it's about what do I want to achieve? What's my dream? What's my goal? What do I need money to do for me to achieve that dream? And that's the biggest financial lesson they've learned.
Growing up, my parents had an array of businesses. They had transportation business for carrying heavy duty stuff, so like load, He had transportation business for normal buses, taxis. My mom had a salon. She also had a toy shop. At some point, she went into clothes and jewelry. At some point, my father had a shoe factory. So, array of different businesses growing up. I think at some point, yes, my father sold some cars. Yeah, let me not forget the poultry and farming. That's also there. They found a way to always get us involved, whether we liked it or not. So I think from a very tender age of like 4 or 5 years old, I was already doing accounting work for my parents already. So most of the times when some of the people that bring the monies home, come home, maybe my parents are not around, they will explain to me, for example, the salon, we say, we had 10 customers, XYZ did this hairstyle, so we got 40 naira, and explain to, because when my parents came home, I had to explain to my parents how that money came about. It was informal training. So many things I learned from them. Now, in trying to pass that on to my child, I have engagements with I have only one child, so I have engagements with my child, and I try to ask her about her view on life, business, and some other things. And when she gives me her views, I tend to try to correct some of the misconceptions that she has. For example, some months ago, she was telling me about business, that she wants to be a business lady. She wants to set up a charity that was going to feed the homeless people. I said, that's nice. But where are you going to get the money from? And, she couldn't answer that question because somewhere in her head, she didn't understand that money had to come somewhere to be able to provide the food for the homeless people. So I had to talk to her a bit, guide her a bit, and she then understood. And from time to time, I also bring her to the office to see what I do and try to explain some things that have to do with the current business that I'm doing and general business terminologies. So she's just 7, she's going to be 8 in a few months, but she's beginning to understand what it means to be a business person so that she doesn't grow up and have misconceptions about what a business is like. I wouldn't say parenting has changed my concepts around money that much. There are certain principles I believe or I stand on. I'll go back to the Bible again. The Bible says a good man leaves inheritance for his children. And I do believe that's something that every parent should plan for. For me, I'm already working on things that I can leave for my own children. So in doing long-term investments, those are one of the things I think about. What can I keep for my child or children that, long-term will be of benefit to them?
Parenting changes your approach to everything. There is a unique sense of responsibility that you would have when you have children that no one can teach you. I have a daughter who says she wants to do a few things internationally and she wants to do those things in non-English speaking parts of the continent. And that means I'm not just talking about fees in terms of learning to do those things. I'm now talking about she needs to learn a language. Someone has got to pay those fees. Parenting, I think, just broadens your mind. It lets you know that there are so many channels expected and unexpected that you need to deal with. And that it helps you plan for a tomorrow that is unexpected.
Okay, when you have kids, the responsibility changes. You're not thinking about yourself only. You're also thinking about them. You want to make sure that they have the right financial knowledge. You want to make sure that you put something aside for them. So a lot of things changes. My spending habit changed. My investment habit changed. I found out that when I started having children, I started doing a lot of mutual funds. I opened mutual funds for them. I also started doing mutual funds for the kids. We started investing in assets, more of land, and maybe trying to put something aside for property, because you know that at the end of the day, it's something that is generational that can also be passed on to the children. So you tend to want to do more long-term kinds or investment that you can't leave or pass on to the kids. So that's what changed. It's not just you anymore. You're also thinking about them. In my 30s, I made some investments in cryptocurrency without understanding that market. I left the investment into the hands of experts in my mind without me fully following the market trends in that area. And because of that, I did lose some funds in that investment. So I didn't have enough financial knowledge in that area. I wish I had delved more into understanding how the cryptocurrency market worked. I think I won't have lost the money I did.
I made most of my mistakes with money at a very young age, especially when I was in school, when my parents would give me money to go to school. Money that was meant for feeding, I used them to buy designer clothes instead. So loads of time I went to class very hungry. I preferred the compliments of, oh, I like your trainers, I like your shirts, than putting food in my stomach. Over the years, I saw those things as money mistakes that I made, because at some point, even feeling hunger impacted my ability to learn in school.
It's actually good to use money for yourself and not feel guilty about it. If you want to travel, yes, use some funds to travel. If you want to broaden your knowledge, you want to learn a new skill, you want to pursue an hobby, you want to learn a language, you want to do something that gives you joy, give you peace, it's actually okay. At times when I want to do something new, you'll be thinking, oh, shouldn't this money go to something? Money is not all about meeting a particular need or so. You can use it to enjoy yourself. Travel if you want to travel. Learn a new skill if you want to learn a new skill. Learn a new language if you want to learn a new language. So that I still struggle a bit with. That because when we are putting the money, you'll be like, shouldn't it be used for something else than going to learn something, maybe a skill or that gives you pleasure. So I think money too should be used to better yourself and to give you a bit of joy once it's done wisely.
Patience. I was at a program, I think a few months ago, where the speaker said wealth building is long term. And I think he said averagely research has shown it takes anywhere, I think he said either 8 to 10 years or 8 to 12 years of consistent investing to build your way into financial freedom. Now, that's not a short amount of years, and he said something very striking. He said, if you want to lose weight, he said you can go to the gym. They'll tell you that within 3 months or 4 months of intense XYZ type of exercises, you can lose this weight, you can lose 5 kg, you can lose 8 kg. He said, but building wealth is not like that. You sacrifice now so that you can eat big in future. So for example, you make, let's say, ₦1 million now. You decide that from this ₦1 million you've made, you're going to invest maybe 900,000 or 800,000 into something, and you are left with just maybe 100 or 150,000 to maybe run your life, eat food, and do the remaining things. You need to be doing that consistently for years if you're going to get to a point where a lot of people are still hustling or working, and you would have reached an equilibrium point where you no longer have to get up again in the morning. You can just chill, because over the years you have put so much aside, and compound interest has affected those monies you put aside that you're probably looking at maybe triple or quadruple of what you put aside. So that's the patience I'm still learning, because sometimes when I do these things, like, I wish I could just take some more and flex. But then when I have those wishes at the back of my mind, I tell myself something. I tell myself that you will still flex, having in mind the bigger picture, that though you are suffering for what you're doing now, but in few years to come, you will see the reward of what you've done.
How to grow money. Money grows. Money is alive. How do you grow it? How do you tend to it? How do you nurture money so it can grow? How do you take away the weeds, distractions, so it can grow? How do you invest the sun, invest the rain? How do you water it? How do you allow it to have oxygen, breathe, so it can grow? That's the one money lesson that I continue to learn, and I think I'll continue to learn.